McNamara, and you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Let me share a little bit about my background before we get started. I am the broker-owner of Boston Connect Real Estate, a boutique firm that is home to over 30 real estate sales and marketing agents who service home buyers and home sellers throughout Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my co-host Melissa Wallace and I will provide you with my team's unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We value the experience of our agents at Boston Connect Real Estate so much that not only will you hear my perspective on real estate topics, occasionally you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of our experienced agents at Boston Connect Real Estate. Be a part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you like to listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with me at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate.
And hello to all my South Shore neighbors. You are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. My name is Melissa Wallace, and I am joined live and in studio by Sue Bollinger.
Well, hello.
Hello. Sue, you are a full-time realtor here at Boston Connect Real Estate, and you have joined me before on the show.
Yes, I have.
But I'm going to give you an opportunity to reintroduce yourself to all of our listeners, okay?
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Sue Bollinger, and I am a full-time agent here at Boston Connect Real Estate. I've been with Boston Connect since probably close to the beginning, and since Boston Connect became Boston Connect, I think. It was like a year in. So, and I sell real estate full-time. I service both buyers and sellers, and
You do it all.
I do it all.
You do it all.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you give back to the community as well. So
I do.
And what do you do for the community?
Well, right now, I'm currently on the school committee in Pembroke.
Yeah, you are on the school committee.
Yeah, so that's fun. And then I also I'm a member of the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce, which is great, which also serves the community a lot. So.
Perfect. Yeah. So you are helping people live in the community, and you're helping to serve the community.
That's
so,
right. I love community.
You do. Yeah. So I think, did I email you yesterday? I emailed a few people yesterday, and I said, hey, looking to fill some slots for Tuesdays. And you were like ready to jump. I can always count on you if I need you on a Tuesday.
Yes.
I know, but sometimes with school committee that
Yes.
sometimes it's on Tuesdays?
Yes.
So not tonight. You're here with me.
Yeah,
Hooray.
not tonight, but next week I can't do it because I'm on school. I gotta
Well,
serve.
sneak peek, I'm somebody who came to our roundtable discussion today is putting herself out there next Tuesday and joining me. So half of the Flynn team,
Woohoo!
Trish Flynn, is joining me next Tuesday.
Trish is the best.
Yeah, she is. And she's been with Sharon ever since the beginning as well. So she did a show with me. I think she's been on maybe twice before, mostly talking about like Airbnbs and rentals. They have a investment property in Vermont.
Yes.
So that's going really well, and I know that she's done a couple shows with me about that. So I don't know what we're going to be talking about next Tuesday, but I love the fact that she's like, yeah, sure. I'm going to do it. I'm putting myself out there. So, and she has a fabulous new listing in Bridgewater, too. So I think she's going to call in maybe on Saturday when Sharon and I do the show and promote that as well.
Yeah, that's a beautiful house, too. So if anybody looks up Trish's website, or goes to our website, she has an amazing listing in Bridgewater.
Yeah,
I want to live there.
26 Pratt Ave in Bridgewater. So look that up.
Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful home. We are live on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're waving. Really? Wave, Sue. So we're waving. Yay. But we do have Larry in studio. Hi, Larry. Bye, Larry.
He's there somewhere.
He's there somewhere.
We heard him earlier.
Yeah. We have Larry in studio. You can call or text WATD at 781-837-4900, and he will get you over to us. But if you're too shy and just want to talk to us on one of the social medias, be sure to follow Boston Connect Real Estate, Sharon Costa McNamara Horton Group, or you can follow Sue Bollinger, too.
Yes, absolutely. Follow me. If you send any questions.
Send her a little request. But I'm watching. I can see that Kristen Howlett, who's a full-time realtor here at Boston Connect Real Estate, she's watching us. We have a few people watching us on social media. So hello. If you have any questions, please let us know. Or if you want to join in on our discussion, we would love to have you.
Absolutely.
But tonight, we have a whole list of things. And I've said this many times, probably every time I do the show, that we sort of come up with ideas for the show organically in our everyday business. And today's Tuesday, so we do like a roundtable discussion. Sharon was leading it today and just sort of brainstorming, and it's a great opportunity for all of us to come together and talk about our business and what's going on and, coming soons and in search ofs and everything. But the other thing is that we come up with a lot of topics from these discussions.
Yes.
So Julia, who comes up with our agenda and part of the social media part of the radio show, she came up with a list yesterday of all the shows that we've talked about on the show wanting to do. Like, oh, that's a great idea for a radio show. And she picks up on that and she puts it on a list. So, so when you said that you would do the show, I forwarded you that list of things that we've been saying, oh, we have to do a show. And you picked number 1 on the list, which is like... I know,
well, but the thing is it's about buyers. And for me, I love working with first-time buyers.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
I said, oh, this is perfect. I could talk about this endlessly. So let's talk about
So let's talk about it until 7 o'clock. That's our time. That's our time limit.
We'll end at 7. Okay.
We'll end at 7. But again, if you have any questions, you could always reach out to us. No matter what the time is, 7 or not 7 o'clock.
Absolutely.
So tonight we're going to be talking about common mistakes first-time homebuyers make when looking at homes and how to avoid them. Yes. You work with a lot of first-time home buyers, and how long have you been in the industry?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years. So you've worked with quite a few first-time home buyers.
I can't say like the number anymore.
Yeah.
From now on, it's just over 20 years.
20 plus years.
It could be 40 years, but I'm going to say over 20.
Yeah.
Because that sounds
Do you
better.
think you'll be in the business for 40 years?
I hope not. That wouldn't be
One
pretty.
day we're going to wake up and Sue is going to tell us that she won the lottery and she doesn't have to work for 40 more years or 40 years.
No, I actually do love it.
Yeah.
It's like, my passion. I love working with buyers. So I wouldn't really mind doing it.
For 40 years.
But for 40 years, at some point I do want to retire. Yeah. My husband may want to, have a place somewhere south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you guys are thinking about a second home somewhere in another state. So we recently did a show on, clients. I think it was with Kristen moving in or out of state and navigating that. So you can go to talkrealestateroundtable.com or go to your podcast app and type in Talk Real Estate Roundtable and you can find that show and all of our past shows as well. But we talked about that. So I sort of forgot that you were looking to buy a second home in another state too.
Yes.
So I'll put you on the list of the agents that I have that have out-of-state homes, and you can do the show with me then too.
Yes, that'll be fun.
But yeah, you went through the list and you chose common mistakes first-time home buyers make when looking at homes and how to avoid them. You work with a lot of first-time home buyers. I was a first-time home buyer up until November of last year, and there were even mistakes that I made, and so we'll talk some of those over tonight. So. First sort of, I don't even want to call it a mistake. Maybe first thing that we can talk about is not knowing what you can afford. So I guess that would be a mistake, is starting to look at a home and not knowing exactly what you can afford. So how can a first-time home buyer, or really any buyer, we're focusing on first-time home buyers, but any buyer really, how can they avoid that?
Yeah, so anytime I meet with the I meet with a buyer for the first time and we sit down and talk about, the process, I always try to ask them what they want their payment to be.
Yeah.
Where do you feel comfortable? If you're currently paying $1,900 a month, but you think you could probably afford maybe 22, you should build your mortgage around that.
Yeah.
So if you get pre-approved for $600,000, but you're only comfortable paying, $1,900 a month or $2,000 a month, there might be an issue.
Yeah, there might be an issue.
You need to know, because honestly, you go, as a first-time buyer, you have all these dreams in your head. You're like, this is the type of house I'd really love to live. I can see myself living here. Maybe I want a Cape or a Colonial with at least 3 or 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. And then you look at, what you can afford and how much money you have for a down payment, and it doesn't necessarily quite match. And I think it's really important to set a realistic budget.
Yeah.
It's not just about the mortgage payment. Also, you have to consider other factors, like you're going to be paying the bills associated with, maybe there's a trash bill and a water bill.
Yeah, your landlord or company that you're renting from is no longer going to be covering those expenses. You have to incorporate that into your monthly living expense.
Right, and even simple things like, if you're buying, if you've been living in a 2-bedroom apartment and then you're buying, like a 2,000 plus square foot house, like the cost of heat and electricity and all those things, it goes way up. So you have to, put that into your budget. So
Sharon's watching us on our TV at home.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Sharon. She just sent me a picture. So we're waving. Hi. I think it's great. We were you here during the discussion in the office about talking with clients, buyers about that sort of the financial aspect of it? I don't know if you were here for that one.
And I could have been, but you guys know my memory.
I know. And I remember where I was sitting. I was sitting in the corner. I think you might have been on the Teams.
That's very possible.
We can do it through Teams as well. But, we sort of talked about, do you talk to your client about the whole financial aspect of it, or do you leave that up to the loan officer?
Oh, yeah, I was here for that. I remember something. Yeah, I was here for that conversation.
She remembers it. This is a moment, guys. So, it is so important to have that open dialogue and discussion with your loan officer. So I'm sure that one of the first things that you ask or suggest to buyers is make sure you get pre-approved, because that's how you're really going to know.
Right.
And not just filling out a form online and sending it off to, outer space, and then it comes back and says, oh, you can afford this. And it's like, are they really factoring in all of the things? Like,
right.
What I loved about my discussion with Jasmine at Maritime Mortgage was, it was, what do you want to pay? What are you comfortable paying monthly for your mortgage, but also what are you budgeting for everything else as well?
Right.
And we worked backwards. So, okay, this is what you are comfortable with. This is what the price range that would bring you to that monthly payment.
And that's why she's a great mortgage broker, because not all mortgage brokers do that.
Yeah.
But really they should. And I also think that it's helpful if agents follow up with that kind of thing too, because sometimes the mortgage broker might just talk about, the tax piece of it,
right,
and how that's escrowed, and maybe the insurance and how much money you're going to need to close, and that kind of aspect of it. But sometimes they don't talk to the buyer about the all-in costs, like, oh, now you're going to be paying a gas bill, an electric bill for a 2,000 square foot house. Oh, and by the way, you have a pool with a heater, and that's going to cost additional money at this time of year, and so forth. So it is really important to have, goal setting, like conversations ahead of time, and know what you can afford.
Yeah.
And it's a two-pronged thing. The first part is you need to get pre-approved. You need to talk with a lender. That's the first thing you do before you do anything else.
Yeah.
Do not go out looking at houses because I'll tell you, I've worked with buyers who in the past, early in my career, that I showed them a couple houses, they weren't pre-approved yet. They get really excited, like, oh, I want to buy this house. And then they sit down and they do the finances. And they, actually, it just happened recently.
They couldn't afford it.
I had a client go to an open house, and I met them back at the office afterwards because they were all excited and they wanted to put in an offer, and they couldn't afford it. And they loved the house. They're like, this is perfect. This is what we want. We have to make it happen. And I'm like, well, you realize you're going to be paying like 3 times what you're paying now. And like, we had to have
a heart-to-heart.
A heart-to-heart.
I know, and it's so hard.
It really is.
It's so hard, but, you know, you don't want to get to a certain point in the process where you've, like, everyone's started to move, and all of a sudden, you know, you get this denial because you can't afford it.
Absolutely.
Which hopefully nobody would allow somebody to get that far in the process. But, you know, things happen. It does happen. But, you know, it really starts with that conversation because, you know, you don't want to fall in love with something that you can't afford. And I think of it as like, I would never go into a store that has absolutely no price tags on them and just decide, oh, I'm going to buy this because I like the way it looks. Oh, I love this. And then I don't know what the price will be until I get to the register. When really how I shop is I add it all in my head until I'm like, okay, I've reached my budget for the day.
That's like, I've gone into some restaurants where they don't list the prices of the menu. The menu prices.
Well, do you say what's the meme that it's like if you have to ask what the price is, you can't afford it or something?
It's like, what are we doing? How much am I paying?
Well, let's see. We'll see what it is at the end of the night.
I just wanted a cheeseburger.
Yeah. I know that recently happened. So my boyfriend and I had gone to Mohegan, and we went to Michael Jordan's Steakhouse. Oh. And we had ordered, like, they have like these meat flights, but it was just the two of us, and we just wanted to get this specific cut off of one of the flights. So we just asked, like, is there a way that we could just order, you know, that particular piece of meat? And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. You know, they were so nice and everything. And it was $135. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, it's perfect to split, which is why we got it, and whatever. It was a special occasion, but we were like, well, you know, we'll know for next time.
Absolutely.
We'll know for next time.
But again, like, you have to know what the all-in cost is. Like, something as big as buying a house. You know, like, you're not just buying a steak dinner, you're buying a house. So you've got to you have to know, all right, well, this is what the cost is going to be monthly.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is, you know, you want to make sure you're not, you know, living in the house and, like, not able to live your life.
Yeah. So first step, setting a budget, talking with the loan officer. And you can also, you know, they're so knowledgeable in this that they, because of the different programs and, you know, X amount down or no money down or anything, like whatever it is that they're, you know, the scenarios that they're coming up with, they're great negotiation strategies as well. So you get to sort of learn that and then also incorporate the conversation with your buyer's agent into that as well, because your buyer's agent is going to be writing your offer, not your loan officer. So.
That's right. That's right.
So
which segues nicely into the next piece of the...
Oh, yes. Mistake number 2, not choosing to use a buyer's agent. So hiring a buyer's agent to represent your best interests.
Absolutely. It's
so why is that? So tell me why that's a mistake.
Well, first of all, we just... It's perfect because we just talked about, like, one of the things that a buyer's agent will do, and they'll direct you to, you know, some people who can talk to you about budget, and a buyer's agent, you know, will help you to know, like, oh, by the way, did you know it's going to cost you a lot more money?
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, but it's worth it because the buyer agent has a lot of responsibility in help in walking the buyer through the process. There's a lot of intricacies just writing the offer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things in an offer. First of all, how do you know that you're paying the right price?
Yeah.
You know, are you guessing? Are you just hoping?
Have you come up with your own analysis on that home?
So a buyer walks into an open house, the property's listed at $600,000, and you think, like, oh yeah, I think I like this house. I'll just offer, you know, $599. Oh, but there's 6 other offers. Have you done an analysis? What if it's only worth $500,000?
Yeah.
What if it's worth $7 million? You know, like, there's a lot of little intricate details.
Yeah.
To work out ahead, you know, you should be talking with somebody who could advise you the best way to do it. And then also the offer itself, you know, if you go direct to the listing agent, you know, there's a lot of little details and nuances in that offer that you want your agent to be able to explain to you.
Right. And they don't necessarily have to explain it to you because they're not representing you.
Right.
You know, if you don't have representation, mean, this sounds silly, but like you don't have, like there's no one's representing you. Like, like no one's representing your best interest. So unless you know every single detail about how to purchase a home, then by all means, represent yourself. But, if you do go directly to the listing agent, their fiduciary responsibility is to their seller.
Absolutely.
So they're going to try to get the best terms, every single term in that offer, the best for their client, because they don't represent you.
Yeah, they're going to advise you and it's going to benefit the seller, not the buyer. And so the thing is that they have to obviously treat you honestly and fairly. Mm-hmm. But their job is to get, the highest price. They want to get, the most money down, the best terms.
Yeah.
They're going to just tell you what they're going to push you towards whatever's going to be best for their seller.
And as a buyer, you can ask for representation from the listing agent, but they don't have to give it to you. They don't have to agree to give that to you, especially their client already, the seller.
Right.
Does not have to give permission to their listing agent.
Yeah, and why would they?
Why would they?
The seller has hired their agent to represent them to get the best possible deal for them.
Yeah.
So why would they then agree to, represent both? Mm-hmm. So I honestly, if I'm a seller's agent, I'm pulling in another agent to represent that, because I just don't think it's right. I should always represent my seller, right?
Yeah.
But as a buyer's agent, a buyer's agent knows the what's expected and what's not expected, what's too much, what's too little, and sometimes a house is on the market and there's 10 offers on the house, and you want to get your offer accepted because you love the house, and a buyer's agent has like a whole toolkit of strategies to help you to get that accepted offer.
Yeah.
And it's really important that you work with somebody who has those strategies. And there's even an occasion where the buyer might say, like, I'm okay with overpaying for the house.
Yeah.
I had it happen recently.
They see an emotional value that gets attached to the financial value that's behind the property itself. So they have an additional value, which is their emotions.
And that's okay to overpay for the house, as long as you're fully in the know of what the property is worth. Mm-hmm. If I tell you the property is worth $600,000 and you want to pay $630,000, because you don't want to lose out on the house, at least like, all right, well, I'm overpaying by $30,000, but it's worth it because I'm going to win the bid and I'm going to be here for the next 10 years anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Plus, and do you know what happens when it doesn't appraise? Like, if it doesn't appraise at that purchase price, like, do you know what happens then?
Right.
That's why it's so important to have somebody, an advocate for you, somebody on your side to say, hey, I just want to let you know that if it doesn't appraise, these are the options, X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely.
And we have to be prepared for those.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. I mean, if it doesn't appraise, you have to have enough money to be able to adjust for that, because your loan is going to be based on whatever the appraisal comes back at. So if it comes back at $600,000, your loan, and you have to put 5% down for your loan program, it's going to be 5% of $600,000 plus that additional $30,000.
Yeah.
So it's important to know what your all-in cost is, and a good buyer's agent will be able to go through that with you.
Yeah. So it's about negotiations, going over inspections, all the legal parts of it. I mean, we rope in an attorney as well, a real estate attorney, but it's understanding, especially now we have new forms. We've talked about the new forms many times, but we had to learn all of the new things that are going on in the industry and become experts on those as well, in order to move forward with our business. So, having a full-time, we keep saying full-time buyer's agent on your side as your advocate, I think is, we're on the second part here. Mistake number 2, not choosing to use a buyer's agent. Well, here's your solution.
Yeah.
Use one.
Use a buyer's agent. And
use one.
And, I think, in this day and age, I'm sure everybody's heard about, the new NAR rules. And, sometimes the first-time buyers are afraid that they're going to have to pay out of pocket for a buyer's agent. And my request for anybody out there that's wondering about this is to just sit down with a buyer's agent to go over what your options are, because there are options to be able to, pay for the buyer's agent by either, like financing some of your closing costs to free up some cash. In many cases, and I would even venture to say most cases, the seller is still offering to pay that commission. So it doesn't necessarily have to be out-of-pocket money for the buyer. There's lots of options.
Yeah, there's so many options, so many negotiation tools that, great agents use. And I want to say it's not always against side A and side B. Like, you don't have to be against each other. You just have two advocates for two clients that are coming together for a purpose, and that purpose is to buy and sell a house.
Right.
So, coming together, negotiating, coming to the best terms for each side, it doesn't always have to be a battle.
Exactly. I think as long as that seller is getting the best net offer, there are ways to make sure that the buyer agent commission is taken care of in that offer. Mm-hmm. So, as long as you want the seller to be happy, obviously, when you're writing the offer, and there's lots of strategies around it, but there's ways to make sure that they're still netting what they want to net.
Yeah.
So
negotiations, I feel like, is big for when it comes to using a buyer's agent. So.
Yes.
Mistake number 3, focusing on aesthetics over structure.
Yeah.
What do you think that means?
Well, that's really important, because sometimes you'll walk into a house and the house it looks beautiful because the owner of the house has excellent taste. Mm-hmm. So you walk in. This happened to me with a buyer last year. I can remember we walked through, and the couple, it was an older couple, and they were like so in love with the house because the decorating was beautiful. They painted everything so nicely. They had used beautiful decorations. They really wanted a new house, but they ended up getting, they were like looking at this house, and it was an older house that looked newer by the way they decorated, which is a talent in itself.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
but it's really important to look at, the other potential flaws that are in the house. So you walk through, obviously you do a home inspection, and that's we'll get to that later. But if you're just walking through, there's certain things that you might want to look at that a buyer's agent might point out and say, you should talk to a home inspector about this. Yeah. You should talk, like this, there was one house I went in where it was missing all the lally columns.
Oh.
Right below, like they had put a
that's
room
not
in
good.
The basement and then took out the lally columns and didn't support the structure. And the floors were sloping. And, as a first-time buyer, you wouldn't really know that there's supposed to be lally columns there. And,
I might just be like, oh, it's an old house.
Yeah, it's an old house, slopey floors.
Creaks. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really important to walk through the, with your agent in...
I've said it numerous times on the show, and I've said it in the office because we sort of pick on Mary sometimes. But she, when she would come to all of my showings, she would get out of the car, and the first thing she'd say is, "Yeah, the chimney's falling off the house. It's falling off." Yep. She just looked it's like her eye just immediately goes to there. Like if she sees a chimney, she wants to see if it's fallen off the house, and 9 times out of 10 it was. Yeah. And it just wasn't something that I was looking at. But then it just became funny because now I'm just like, oh, Mary, is the chimney falling off? Is it coming off the house?
Yeah, it's true though. But this kind of goes with the next point about home inspection. So I had a client this year. And this wasn't a first-time buyer. Mm-hmm. So this talks about the importance of doing a home inspection. Yeah. Even though, all these people are waiving them. Yeah. I had these buyers have bought and sold a couple of times. So they know a lot. And so we went through the house. They loved this house. They're ready to put in an offer. And then I said to the listing agent, can you send me over, have they ever done a home inspection on this? Because they'd only owned it for a couple of years.
Yes, I remember that.
And so they were like, sure. So they send over the home inspection report. And then they send over a separate spreadsheet. And on that spreadsheet, they detailed out everything that they had done to fix everything on the home inspection report, right? So my clients were like, perfect. Like, we don't even need to do a home inspection. Let's waive it.
Yeah.
Based on that knowledge. And so they move into the house. They, they love the house. They move in. They buy it. And then they were like, oh, well, let's get the chimney cleaned. Speaking of chimneys. And they had this company come out to take a look at the chimney to make sure everything was safe for them to do a fire. And the chimney person said, you do know that this chimney is falling off the house, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, what are you talking about? And they said, yeah, in fact, we actually came out for the previous owners and gave them a quote of like $60,000
How?
to rebuild.
What a miracle that they called the exact same company
Right?
that the sellers had called.
Exactly. But like, it kind of goes to show you, like, you never know. You should always do a home inspection. It's so important. And this is somebody who knew the process.
Yeah.
So for first-time home buyers, I never, ever recommend skipping the home inspection, even if it's like a shorter home inspection period or whatever, but I never recommend skipping it. And that's the reason why, because something like that could easily happen. It turned out to be okay. Like, they got a couple other opinions, and, like, they don't actually have to, like, the work isn't that expensive. So.
Well, it's interesting because the first house I had under agreement, I had a home inspection. I ended up walking away after my home inspection, but they, went back under agreement with somebody else, and the agent had reached out to me and asked if I would provide them with my home inspection report. I also it was well water, so I did a water test and radon.
Oh, wow.
And so I spent about $1,000, but you know what? I spent $1,000 to save $300 and something thousand. So
Right.
I was grateful. But I said no.
I would have just said, if you give me the money, I'll give it to you.
So I said no, and it wasn't about the money that I had spent. Because the reason why I walked away wasn't in my report.
Oh, yeah.
So I wasn't going to, like, interpret or let them interpret something from my report, because there were things in the report that, like, were factors in, but, like, having more conversations and negotiating after the home inspection, other things came up that I was, like, not comfortable with at all.
Right.
And so I was like, no, like, they can do their own report. They can have their own tests and everything done. And if they come up with the same things, great. If they don't, that's them.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be
sure.
involved in that.
Yeah.
So I said no, and I know that was mean, but,
Well, you know what?
And it ended up selling for less than what we were under agreement for. So
Yeah.
who knows? They could have found the same things and
probably
negotiated,
did.
and they just sort of, figured it out in the end. But
Yeah, my guess is they probably did. But you own that home inspection report, so
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to share it if you don't want to share it.
I should have sold it on the, the market.
This
home I'll give it to you for $400 instead of $500.
Well, I mean, it's there's all kinds of reasons you might want to back out of the house, and I think doing the home inspection is good because you're going back into the house a second time,
Yeah.
and looking at the house more closely. And so that was kind of part of my point of showing that house last year that had the beautiful decor.
Yeah.
And I took the couple in, and they loved it, and then we went back in the second time, and that's when we saw all of the different things. Like, they saw that. Like, I didn't even have to point them out, but they walked around and said, "Whoa, I didn't notice this crack in the foundation," and oh, well, this, they found, like, all of these little defects that were really concerning. And so they decided not to put the offer in,
Yeah.
before the home inspection, before we even got to that point. But, as a first-time buyer, you don't know that. You put the offer in, you get an accepted offer, and without doing the home inspection, and there's so many little things that can go wrong.
Right.
And if you've never bought and sold a house before, it's really important to not skip that very important step.
Yeah. So we advise you to get all of your inspections and pay for it yourself.
Yeah.
Don't ask me for my report, because I'll say no.
That's right.
But yeah, no. So
Yeah.
focusing on do I have anything else to say about mistake number 3? Because we do have a couple of other ones, and we only have
Yes.
about 12 minutes left. But,
Okay.
Do anything else I want to say about that one? Yeah. Just falling in love with sort of like the look but like not really looking, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Right.
again, with this house that I had under agreement, during my home inspection, I lifted up. It was an area rug.
Yeah.
Okay, lifted it up, and it didn't have floor underneath it. Like,
Oh
there was
my
no
gosh.
floor.
Yeah.
There wasn't a floor. Like, it was.
And that's true,
I
though.
don't
Like,
know.
when you're walking through with your agent and you go to an open house or you have a
Yeah,
private
I didn't see that
showing-
until I had the accepted offer. I didn't see
Yeah.
that it didn't have a floor in the living room.
Yeah, that's kind of a key detail
Yeah.
that you might want to, that's...
Yeah. I mean, don't go pulling up rugs and stuff, but like if it's an area rug, fold it over and see if there's the floor underneath it.
I always look under area rugs. You
Well,
never
yeah.
know.
You never know.
And sometimes the floor is discolored or
Yeah.
there's some sort of a blemish
It has
underneath.
a tan.
Yeah, or the
Tan from
it's
the
scratched
sun.
up. I've had
Yeah.
it where years ago I had a situation where I was the seller's agent and the sellers had covered up like holes in the wall with pictures,
gosh.
and even I didn't know.
Yeah.
So the buyers got to the walkthrough at the end and were like, "We're not buying the house. It's trashed."
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. It came together, but it was a tough. But yeah, it's important to research the house before you get to that point. But also, let's see. So mistake number 4 is not considering long-term needs. So, it's important to consider how long you plan to be in the house. So if this is a short-term thing for you, that's one thing. But if you're planning to spend the next 10 years in this house, you should consider things like resale value. There's a lot that goes into the resale value. So if you live on a busy road, if you live with like high tension wires nearby, even though there's no evidence whatsoever that, if you do the research, it doesn't cause cancer or whatever, but like people think it does. So it's the perception from the buyers.
Yeah.
Just like little things like that. So is it going to reduce your ability to sell at a later time if it's in a down market, for example? I always, talk to my buyers about, the potential resale value later, because that's always important. I might say like, this neighborhood does get, have a significantly lower resale value because the lot sizes are a lot smaller. But if you go 2 miles that way where all the lot sizes are like, 1 acre or more, it might be worth a little bit more. So you got to consider that for resale later. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with living there, but you should know the all-in cost and you should consider the long-term needs.
There was the house that I put in an offer in before the house that I bought. It was a 3-bedroom, and up until then, I had only been looking at 2 bedrooms, and it was just me at the time. And why do I need 3 bedrooms? But I was thinking ahead. It was in my budget.
You didn't
And
know you were going to have another cat that would need another room.
I know. And now they have the finished basement, the 2 of them just running around like crazy. It's like a playroom down there. But, I was thinking ahead, like, okay, so, for now, one can be an office, one can be for the cats or whatever. But, like, thinking ahead, how great would it be, resale to have 3 bedrooms and have a 3 or 4 bedroom septic. And, that's what I was thinking. I didn't end up getting it. It did have multiple offers on it. But it was just a great opportunity. It needed a lot of work, but it was a great opportunity, somewhere to grow and space to grow.
Yeah.
And something that I was looking at was I wanted something that had character, that needed, some updating and needed some work done to it, so I can put in some sweat equity and I could, reap the benefit of that in however many years I planned on, being there and then finally selling it. But, that was just the mindset that I had, and just having that in my head, being like, okay, I want to either grow here or I want to be able to put some equity into this and get it back. Right.
And it's very important to know what, if you're planning to be there for 10 years, I mean, anything can happen in the 10-year mark, but if you have a long-term goal of staying where you're going to be, where you're going to buy, then it's okay. But if your goal is to just buy something for now, live in it for a couple of years, maybe do things to fix it up, and then sell later, well, you need to really consider the resale value. Yeah. That's going to be a big factor because you need to be able to get your money back.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
So...
The next one was, I think we kind of already did it, skipping a professional home inspection. So we talked about the importance of that. So letting emotions drive the decision.
Oh, yeah, it's a tough one.
It is. So you work hand in hand with buyers. Do you see this a lot, or?
So I would say 90% of the time we can, if you are working hand in hand with a buyer's agent, they can help you to navigate the problem of emotion, because you should be trying to make a business decision, because this is one of the biggest purchases you'll ever make.
Yeah.
And so the emotional piece of it is very difficult. I can tell you, I recently had a buyer who didn't care, it was like all emotional value. And I recommended a specific price, and this buyer was like, I don't care, I'm going, $30,000 higher because I want to make sure I get the house. And I tried to advise differently, but sometimes emotions drive it so that you're not making the logical choice that, maybe your buyer agent is suggesting. So I would recommend that you talk it over with the buyer's agent. Make sure you're looking at facts. You're not just looking at your, how much you love the house and how you don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
Because what good is it if you got to sell in 2 years and you can't get any of your money back and you're losing $30,000? Like how, your emotional value of that house, now you're looking at just
right.
you went with your emotions, and now you're going to lose all that money. So this is an important purchase. So make sure that you're understanding the all-in cost and looking at the facts.
Yeah.
Like the neighborhood, the town, the resale, how far off are you from, how much work does the house need? How much work are you going to put into the house?
Yeah.
There's a lot of little things that go into
it. Especially the immediate things that need to be done. There are things that need to be done to my house, but they're more cosmetic things. My bathroom needs to be updated. Yeah, my kitchen needs to be updated. But for now, I've painted everything, and all of my appliance work, right. It's fine. Everything. I took the chair rail down, and that made the room look bigger. Just saying.
Yeah.
But I did what I could to my house right now. You don't have to do it all. I wanted to redo the floor downstairs, but realistically, I'm not using the room. So I felt as though it would be a waste of money right this second, to spend a couple $1,000s to redo the floor downstairs. Well, I'm not using the room.
Right.
I live upstairs. I have a raised ranch. So, the room is finished. The cats like it. So who cares? So you do what you can. I refinished the hardwood floors. I had a really great, actually a referral from Jess Page, who's a full-time realtor here at Boston Connect Real Estate. She's referred him and his crew to, I think she used him herself. And, excuse me, I have a frog. And there you go. A couple of her clients as well. And he was great. And I've referred him, I think, 3 times now since, doing my floors. And it's amazing what paint can do.
Yes.
Refinishing hardwood floors or anything like that. So, do what you can when you can do it. And
right.
Sharon always says, her and Mark do, one project a year on their house. And that's how they've been able to maintain, the integrity of their house for 30, something years.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Just keep up with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not researching the neighborhood. We only have about 2 minutes left, so not researching the neighborhood is one of them.
Yep.
And
researching the schools, because a strong school district always sells houses, even if you don't have kids or you're not intending to have kids. Having a strong school system really says a lot about how well your house will sell in the future. So that's an important factor. Researching local crime rates. That's something important.
And watch out where you put your phone number, because we talked about this earlier, because Sue's been getting so many phone calls. And I remember 30 today phone calls. What was that for again?
Because I was researching health insurance.
Yes, researching health insurance, and she accidentally put her phone number somewhere, and now every single place that's ever sold, insurance is calling her. And it's the same thing when I got pre-approved, the moment I got pre-approved, I had 5,000 people calling me, oh, I'm such and such bank. I'm like, please leave me alone. I'm very committed. I'm in a committed relationship with Maritime Mortgage. Please leave me alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like talking to people to say, take me off your list. Take me off your list.
Yeah,
Please just take me off your list.
Please leave me alone. Sue, how can people get in touch with you if they want to hire you as their buyer's agent?
Well, the best way to reach me is to either call or text 508-317-5729.
One more time, that phone number.
508-317-5729.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go to my website, southshorevibes.com.
Oh, southshorevibes.com. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh, we should promote that. southshorevibes.com.
southshorevibes.com.
You can go to bostonconnect.com to find all of our contact information as well. You can go to talkrealestateroundtable.com, listen to any of our shows again because we know you want to. You can listen to the podcast on your podcast app again, so just search Talk Real Estate Roundtable.
So much valuable info there.
What's your biggest takeaway from tonight's show?
Biggest takeaway is to make sure that you can afford the house.
Yeah.
Do your budget first and get pre-approved. It's so important.
Yeah. And after you do that, my number one thing is hire a professional realtor
Absolutely.
to be on your side.
Yes, absolutely.
That was my singing.
Call.
Yeah, if you can remember that because of my singing, that's great. I will be back on Saturday, bright and early at 8 a.m. with Sharon McNamara, the broker owner of Boston Connect Real Estate. And we're talking about how we can get you into a home before the holiday season. We're going to be talking about relos as well, relocation. So, Trish Flynn is going to be calling in and promoting her house, perfect for relocation. So if you're coming in from out of state, we have a house for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining me, Sue. I appreciate it. Bye, everybody. I'll see you on Saturday.
Bye.